Good morning, algebra students. This is Mr. Montes, and this is our last week for the school year. And this might possibly be the last video that we sent out, just because we're kind of ending at a good spot. So um, be aware of that. And if you haven't started your other assignments, it's probably a good time to do so. So we're going to actually continue to work on the quadratic formula again. We're actually going to take it up one tiny little notch, and which is, as you can see by the example that I have down here, our leading coefficient, or the coefficient of the quadratic term, is no longer going to be just one. It's going to be, we're going to make it something other than one, so we can work with some more complicated quadratics. Okay, so just to review what the quadratic formula is the solutions to ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So this is your standard quadratic in what we call standard form. Set equal to 0 can be found by x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. So basically what we do is we take our quadratic like we have here. We identify a, b, and c, which we're going to color chunk so to make it easier on you visually. And make sure that it's set equal to 0. And then we're going to substitute those pieces into the formula and then simplify. The most difficult part is going to be to simplify the quadratic equation into something that's reduced down to maybe just a single number. In this case, I think we gave you all some pretty nice quadratics that work out to have solutions that are whole numbers or fractions actually. So let's just jump into the first example, and here we have 2x squared plus 3x minus 2 equals 0. Now it's set equal to 0, so that's good. That's number one. The second thing to notice is that we could try and factor it, but we haven't taught you how to factor when you have a number out here in front like this 2. And there's a good reason we didn't do that. It's a little bit more complicated, and really that's not the goal of this course, and you'll actually get that in Algebra 3-4 when you take that. So first things first, let's make sure it's equal to 0. We already said it was. Second thing is identify A, B, and C. A is going to be 2, so I'm going to write down 2 right here. B is the coefficient of the linear term, the one that's attached to the x with the power of 1, so that's going to be 3. And negative 2 here is going to be our C. Notice that I'm taking not just the 2, but the negative 2. Take the sign with it. And so now I'm just going to substitute everything in. And you know what? Let's go ahead. I'm going to copy this. Let's paste it down here for reference. Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to write down x equals, and I'm just going to substitute those numbers in. So I got negative b, which is going to be 3. We'll do it in color. And then for the next example, I won't do it with color, just so we can graduate from that strategy there. Is the square root plus or minus the square root of b squared. So parentheses, that's going to be 3 squared minus 4 times a. A in this case is 2. Last week, it was always 1. And then we got times negative 2, which is our C, all divided by 2 times A, which is 2. And there we go. The rest of the work is just simplifying and remembering your order of operations. Now, a neat trick is to simplify everything beneath the square root, which is going to be right there. So we'll start there. Everything else will remain the same. So I got x equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 3 squared means 3 times 3, 9, minus, now this is going to be negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. Negative 8 times negative 2 is going to be positive 16. So this is plus 16. I always like to think of that minus as a negative and just multiply everything through, and then that'll determine whether that's a plus or a minus there. In this case, because negative 4 times 2 times negative 2 ended up being a positive, I end up with a plus 16. All divided by 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, x equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 9 plus 16 is 25, all divided by 4. X equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 25 is 5. Remember, it is the number that when I square it, I end up with 25, right? So the question is, what is that number? The number is 5. So in this case, the square root of 25 is 5. 5 divided by 4. And we're almost done. Now, all I have to do is split this up into two pieces. The reason I split it up into two pieces is because I got that plus or minus, which is right here. So this is x equals negative 3 plus 5 divided by 4, and x equals negative 3 minus 5 divided by 4. X equals negative 3 plus 5 is positive 2. I don't know if you can hear that, but the kid is not crying today. He's laughing, which is much easier on the ears. Negative 3 minus 5, negative 8 divided by 4. 2 divided by 4. So, simplified out. 2 divided by 4, that can be simplified. 2 out of 4 is the same thing as 1 out of 2. You can think of this as dividing by 2, divided by 2. You can do that. If you just leave it as 2 fourths for now, you know what? That's okay. And x equals negative 8 divided by 4 is negative 2. And so there are your two solutions. So Noah, at this point, you're done. Now, if you really wanted to, you could substitute those into the quadratic in for x, and they should end up giving you 0. So if that's the way you want to check your answers, you can totally do that. Another way that you could check your answers, and let's see if I can pull it up here. Give me 2 seconds. There's this really cool website called Desmos.com. I think some of you all have used it. Let me slide it over here. If you click on Start Graphing, if you type in the quadratic that we were looking at, so just type in 2x, to type into the power of 2, you can use this little keyboard here, and you can use this piece, power of 2, and then it was plus 3x, and then minus 2. And then we can go ahead and let me get rid of this. I can check right here. Look at that. These right here are going to be my solutions. Now remember, our solution was negative 2, and the other one was 2 fourths, which is also 1/2, which is also 0.5. So just another way that I can check my work. Go to Desmos.com, graph it, and you're good to go. Now remember, even though you have Desmos to find these solutions, we do want you to practice using the quadratic formula. So make sure that when you do this, you're actually showing us the entirety of your work, which would be this piece right here. All right, so let's do one more example. Let me go ahead and find the one I wanted to do. Here it is. Okay, very good. Let's draw a little line here. Separate these out. Example 2. So we have 6x squared plus 11x minus 10 equals 0, and we are solving. Solve. Okay. Let me see if I can bring up my quadratic formula again. Here it is. Don't you wish you had a Microsoft Surface like I did? Okay, so let's identify A, B, and C. A, B, and C. We're going to graduate from color chunking. Let's see if we can do this. A is 6. B is 11. And negative 10 is C. So I just substitute everything in. X equals negative B, so negative 11 plus or minus the square root of 11 squared minus 4 times a is 6, times c, which is negative 10, all divided by 2 times a, which is positive 6. And now it's just a simple case of simplifying. Negative 11 plus or minus the square root of 11 squared. This one might be tougher, right? So 11 times 11, I've done this so long, 121. Now, negative 4 times 6 is negative 24. Negative 24 times negative 10 is going to be positive 240. Now, something that you can do, if you have a calculator, it probably doesn't look like this, but I can just go ahead, 11 to the power of 2 minus 4 times 6 times negative 10. Can you hear my kid? No longer laughing, is he? You can type it in like that, and it might be backwards on your stuff. Oh, it's not. Perfect. So you can type it in like that, and just hit enter. Enter. Oh my gosh. Oh, I hadn't done it yet. And there we go. We end up with 300 and... Come on. Come on. Everything's backwards. 361. There we go. So, all divided by 2a, which is 12. X equals negative 11 plus or minus the square root of 361 divided by 12. Now, we have to figure out what number, what number squared gives us 361. That's what the square root is going to be. Don't guess, right? In this case, these numbers are kind of big, so I wouldn't guess. There's a square root button function that I have here on my calculator. So I could go second square root 361. If I type it in, look at that, it gives me 19. So my number is 19. So x equals negative 11 plus or minus 19 divided by 12. Your calculator on your phone, your phone like this, also has a square root function. So just go ahead and find that. Now split it up into two parts. X equals negative 11 plus 19 divided by 12. And x equals negative 11 minus 19, and my face is covering it, isn't it? There we go. Divided by 12. Okay. X equals negative 11 plus 19. So that's 19 minus 11. I think that would be 8 over 12. And x equals negative 11 minus 19 is negative 30. Negative 30 over 12. Now there is some simplifying that I can do here. Now for me, I'm not going to require you to be able to simplify. I think you've done the work that we want you to do. But if you really wanted to, all you have to do is find factors that are in common with the numerator and denominator and divide those two by those common factors to reduce it down, right? So 8 and 12 have a common factor of 4. So I'm going to divide both by 4 if you want to. And that's 2 over 3. And x equals, this will still be negative. Now, common factors between 30 and 12, I think it's going to be 6. Divide by 6, divide by 6. That'll be 5 over 2. So your two solutions are right there. Now, if you really want to, go into Desmos, plug that into Desmos. It'll probably give you, in this case, it'll be a decimal. This will also be a decimal, just one that's a little bit easier to read. Check those answers and see if you got it right, and then you're good to go. The assignment's coming out. Make sure you do that, and anything that you haven't done, might be a good week to get this done because grades are due. Let me check. Grades are due on the 17th at 3 p.m. So the latest I can take stuff is going to be, for me, and I think for most teachers, is June 16th because we have to have our grades submitted by the end of the day the next day. So plan on having a total of 8 more days to do this work and then get it submitted. So in any case, I hope that helps you all out. I'll catch you guys Not next week, because I won't see you next week, probably. So I'll see you all next year. See ya.